All right, let's get right into this one. I'm not messing around, folks. Look at this. You might have seen this already. If not, I'll drop a link down below in the description, but I quartered up this big monster maple with my Husqvarna 572 XP and a Gramberg slabber attachment. And I did that back in, I guess it was November of last year. And then I had all these sawmill troubles and back problems and everything else, and I could not get back to this customer in order to get this milled up for them. So, as you probably know if you've watched my recent videos, Kevin Bales from Kevin Bales Enterprises came down to the Tri-Cities and helped me out with a couple customers. And in my last videos, I mentioned that we'd be going over and milling up some spalted maple in the heat of the sun with no shade. So, without further ado, I'm gonna let this one go and we'll get right into this video. So stick around.
Probably 1 inch with the rest of it. Okay. Yeah. Or no, let's do 2 inch with the rest of it.
Okay. Yeah, I would go no less than 1.25 inches.
Yeah.
2 inches, plenty of movement. You can plane it down.
Maybe we can get a slab off the bottom of this.
Yeah, after it's flattened. Some guy with the chainsaw didn't do the greatest job.
Well, once I get down there a ways, I can flip it.
Although it's not too bad.
It's not terrible.
Not bad.
I've seen worse.
No, it's cracked a lot though. It's painted, yeah. All right, now before I get started, you need to watch this, folks. That right there is what can happen. You get a buildup of sap and sawdust in the V-groove of your band wheels under the belt. It pushes the belt up. When you fire up the band can actually jump off the belt. And it sounds like a brake almost. You just got to stop, clean everything out, put the band back on, tighten everything up, and away you go. So good job, Kevin. He caught it right away, cleaned it up quickly, got the band back on, and got milling in short order. Great job. All right. Outside of the guy running the chainsaw, not making the flattest cuts, but, you know, truthfully, chainsaw slabbers like that aren't exactly flat anyway, so I'll give myself a little bit of a break there. And I did put that video out in April, so I've dropped it down below for you to check out if you didn't see it. Kind of a fun video. Actually damaged a bar in that video too. So, but in any case, you know, once you quarter these guys up, and bear in mind, they've been down for about, a year and a half, maybe close to 2. By the time I quartered them up. Now the customer did use Anchor Seal 2. There's a link down below. You'll find that on one of my Amazon links. And he didn't just end seal it. He also sealed the open faces. And that was my advice. The trick with having wood on the ground this long, folks, is it really is going to check badly. You can see the checks as the mill gets up close and you see it in the camera. The checks are cracking, usually on the ends of the log. That's where they start, and that's just because as the ends dry, they shrink. The problem is the center isn't dry, and so the ends can't shrink down smaller like you would imagine in typical shrinking, right? And you know, that's tough. You got to breathe that stuff. You can put masks on. Honestly, I don't find that you help a whole lot. Sometimes I use a little face cloth thing. That seems to help pretty well, but otherwise, you know, away you go. I will tell you, I've been very impressed with how well this turned out despite being on the ground in the heat of a very dry climate for 2 years. Actually quite stunning. I always advise mill them wet. Wetter is better, but we got away with it here. The customer did a great job of being sure that there was lots of Anchor Seal on it to slow the drying process down. And they got some great lumber on the inside, which you're going to get to see at the end. So let's get to milling, and I'm going to point out some things while this is going. So let's start with the first one. Check this out. Now, I don't know if you noticed right there, but when Kevin pushed his log clamp against the log, it tried to lift the log, and he had to kind of back it off and work it back in. This is something I've mentioned before about these mills. You do have to be careful. If you just run that log clamp in, it can actually push up against the side supports and lift the log off the deck. You don't want to do that. So he did a good job there of catching that. Now, I'm going to come back throughout the video and kind of just point some things out to you. There's certain things that Kevin was doing that I think was pretty neat to watch and very educational for those that run sawmills and like to see what somebody with over 1 million board feet looks like when they're running a sawmill, the kind of things they do. So let's let this run for a little bit, but I'm gonna drop in now and then and give you some thoughts about what's going on. I think you'll find it interesting. So let's see what happens. All right, this is another one of those times when things don't go right. Oh. So the one thing I've mentioned before about the clamp and where you place your log clamp, you'll notice that Kevin's side supports are down very low, and so is his log clamp. You get away with this a lot, absolutely. And I know a lot of guys do it, and I'm not taking anything away from Kevin in his doing it here. It's not anything against the Sawyer. Some of us take risks, some of us don't. I mill a little slower than Kevin at times, and this is one of those times. Honestly, when you're milling two cants against each other like that, they should be sitting nice and flat, and you should absolutely get away with having those low side supports and the low clamp. But you've heard me mention before that I've had a cant twist on me when I was doing that. And so I often will leave my side supports up about a third of the way up, and I'll run my log clamp up about 3 or 4 inches. I'll mill down to those side supports and log clamp, then I'll readjust those lower right down to the bottom of the deck for the same reason that you just saw. Now, Kevin's experience had him recover very, very quickly from that. Really didn't cost him any time at all. And had it not done that, he would have milled both of those cants down very quickly. So I don't want to take anything away from Kevin's style. He's milled more than I have, a lot more. And he's good at it, folks. He knows what he's doing. But I think it's important to point out that sometimes things happen. No matter how good you are, no matter how much experience you have, things happen. And that's what happened here. Not a bad thing. Nothing got hurt. Didn't change anything. But it's the reason why I leave mine up. It makes me a little slower than Kevin. So at the end of the day, he's actually going to get more done than I will because he does things like leaving the log clamp very, very low and the side supports down. Does he get away with it? Absolutely. Probably 90% of the time or better. But there's always that one time. I don't like it when that happens, so I just prevent it. But what that means is, unlike Kevin, other than in this particular case, I have to always reset after I come down the cant away. So if I'm milling double cants and my side supports are up higher and my log clamp is up higher, that means I have to stop at some point, lower them, and then continue on. And usually when I do that, that's when the customer can off-bear the lumber that's left on the cant if they haven't already. In this case, Sean was doing a great job of just pulling it off as Kevin was going, and I think that's a great way to go. So, good job recovering for that one, and a great opportunity for me to point out one of the differences between Kevin and I. Is he faster than me? Yep. Has he milled more than me? Yep. Are we different? We mill very similarly, but there is one of those examples of something that I don't actually do. Now you're going to get to see some more and things I'm learning from Kevin. I love to watch other sawyers, folks, because I always learn something. And that is why I love doing these videos. So let's let this run. Let's let Kevin teach us a few more things. And I'll let you know when I see something that I need to try. At this point, we're baking in the sun. You know, I was trying to keep the cameras running and the batteries were starting to die on me, and it was approaching 97 degrees. And there was just no shade here. You know, I thought about putting an awning on the side of the Jeep, and on this day, I just thought, oh my gosh, it would be so awesome to have one of those, you know, overlanding awnings on the side of my Jeep. And if you've never seen one of those, just look them up. They're really cool. You can have like a 6 or an 8 foot or even a huge batwing awning that you mount to the rack on top of your Jeep. And boy, it sure would have been nice at this point. Of course, Kevin doesn't have an umbrella on his mill like I can do on mine, although my umbrella's broken and I need to replace it, but that's a whole nother story, right? Kevin doesn't have one. I noticed that, and it could have been really useful right here, buddy. You might want to think about getting yours with an umbrella put on it, especially for your new LT50 with your command control. Put an umbrella over that. It was hot, trying to stay hydrated. Kevin's staying hydrated. It's tough when it's like that, and that's one of these things about milling that I tend to not want to mill in the real heat of the summer. It's a little easier for me because even though I do have a sawmill business, I run my business on a part-time basis. I typically only mill in the spring months and in the fall, and I don't usually mill in the middle of summer, and I don't usually mill in the middle of winter, not unless it's somewhere close. I don't have to go very far, it's not going to be too cold, the roads aren't icy, whatever. And in the summer, I just don't, because I don't find that lumber dries quite as well in the summer, unless you're kiln drying it or you've got a really well-controlled environment. You don't just want to leave it stacked and stickered out under the heat of the sun in the desert. It'll dry too fast, and it can cause you problems, and you just have a greater loss then. Just one of those things. And while I'm at it, folks, do me a favor. I would love it if you'd hit that like button for me. Just smash that like button. It really helps to spread these videos around. When you hit those like buttons, and it's free to do that, YouTube says, oh, hey, we should show this to somebody else. And that's kind of really cool. And drop your comments down below and let me know what you think about what's going on, and drop any questions you have. I always answer comments, folks. So if you put a comment down below, I'm going to reply to it. So there you go. And do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. It's also free. And that'll tell you when another video comes out, so you can keep watching these videos. And I really appreciate it when you do, folks. Helps me out, makes my day. Thank you very much for that. Now, watch this right there. See that? I mentioned it in an earlier video. I noticed that Kevin a lot of times will take one of the flitches that he's squared up, and he doesn't necessarily want to mill any lower, and he'll just drop it down flat and clamp against the side of it up against the other boards. Interesting. That actually seemed to work really, really well. So, there you go. Something I can learn from Kevin. It's a really interesting technique because let's say you want to get 1x6s. And one of the flitches you've milled down to 12 1/8, so you can split it. But the other or others, you're not quite there yet. So you got to trim them down a little more. If you flip that one down on its side, clamp it against the ones that are still upright, mill those down to 6 inches, then all you have to do is flip that one back up and mill it down, and you can pull them all off the deck, and away you go. Neat technique, pretty efficient use of his time. And I got to tell you, I was really kind of impressed with that. Something so simple, really anybody could think of. Obviously, Kevin did, and I didn't. So thank you, Kevin, for showing me that. Great little technique to keep that on there, have plenty of clamping surface, and be able to mill everything down in the end. Good job. Now, while I'm at it, also check out I've got my merch store. There's a sale going on. If you go into the merch store, there are 2 stores that are combined there. So if you go down below, you'll see some items. And if you see the Bourbon 30 glasses, those are on one store, which is called Teespring. And there's a big sale going on right now. It's either 15 or 20% off. And there's a code that I've put in a post on my community page. I will drop it down below as well. And I think that goes to July 11th at midnight Eastern time. So you want to check that out. If you're thinking about getting a t-shirt or a sticker or a cup or a glass or something. And then the Spreadshirt store, that's where the hoodie is and some of the other shirts and the camping mugs and those things. I think they've got either a 10 or a 15% sale going on right now. I'll drop that information down below as well. Check those out. Really helps the channel out. I do appreciate it. And don't forget the memberships. The bottom membership is like $2.99 a month. You can't even buy Starbucks for that, folks. Certainly can't get a medium Dutch Bros for that. But it helps the channel out. And, honestly, it's just one of those things where I'm going to be sharing a lot more information, giving a lot more time, one-on-one type time, direct time with my members, and sharing with them stuff that I don't normally publish on YouTube. So a lot of folks do Patreon, some do YouTube memberships. I think it's a great way to support a channel, especially newer, smaller channels that don't really make much off YouTube. Helps them out. And I, for one, hadn't actually done it in the past. And I've been thinking, I need to do that on some smaller channels that I really like and want to see grow. So check my memberships out. If you think it's something worth it for you, do me a favor, subscribe to that. It'll really help the channel out, and I really appreciate it. Now, I'll shut up, and I'll let Kevin get back to it. So let me throw some music out there for you. Let's see if we can get this thing done, and let's see if something else comes up that maybe is worth paying attention to.
Yeah, why don't we take those down?
All right, a couple things. You might have noticed that crazy sound Kevin's mill was making. That was because he believed his up-down motor was about to give out on him. He milled all day with it. And notice there that he took that last flitch that really looked like maybe it wasn't any good, and he flattened it out too. Now, we'll get that off the deck, but I'm going to give you a little taste of what this spalted maple looked like. It's pretty amazing. And then I'll drop a video out there for you to check out next. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate your being here. The old jarhead out. I hope that comes through. Wow, it's more down here. You got some more.